So let's get straight into it and talk about the Dead Space remake.
All right, let's get started.
So we're gonna dive right in with the classic dark and claustrophobic headbanger hallway. Shown here on the screen is what Dead Space looked like in 2008. Although revolutionary for its time, let's see the design process and how it looks now. Roman and Phil, can you show us more?
Yeah, so actually, one of the first things that we did was we went back to the legacy assets for the game. So we wanted to recreate with the proxies, the full ship, the Ishimura, to recreate it. And then our art team went in and started an added level of details to the environment so that we could have a higher fidelity and start seeing what can the game look like on next generation of consoles. So we went in, added details, then started working on the shaders and the materials to try to have that metallic look that we were after, and just like to get the right materials out of the environment. From there, we did like a first pass at lighting to try to get the mood right, because the atmosphere of Dead Space is pretty much on lighting, and then on VFX to try to get like that full picture of what are we after, what are we trying to achieve for the game. And it looks great on a few stills, but it actually looks way better in game.
So what type of engine did you guys use to create this? And what graphics are you aiming for?
So great question, Jackie. We're using Frostbite as our dev engine, and we're going for, obviously, high-end graphics, high-end fidelity, and our focus is on lighting, VFX, and just overall audio experience to make sure that we would deliver the right atmosphere, something that was key in the original game.
Yeah, so I know we have a real live functional build currently. Can you bring that up? And this again is a work in progress.
So yes, that's super early. Like it's end of pre-production build. We are just starting production, so it's really far from being done. But one thing we really wanted, and you touched about it, it's really wanted to make sure that we nail the ambience, and not only the look, the lightings, the VFX, the fog, but also nail that ambience. Give you the feeling that you're in the Ishimura, you're inside those dark corridors. And not only it's in engine, it's actually in game. And here's my boy Isaac. So that rig, that armor, it's not the original, it's a new one, it's still work in progress, it's gonna be improved a lot, but it gives a first taste at Isaac Clarke in the remake. And look, here we are.
Wow.
I mean, the lighting, everything looks phenomenal. The smoke.
It looks so good.
Very much what we should be expecting at this point from next generation graphics.
It's really Dead Space, but like you never saw it, I think.
So it has been almost 13 years, since the original game came out, original Dead Space. Why is this remake happening now, and what exactly is this remake? Can you elaborate on that?
So one thing that's important for us, and that's why it's for PS5, Xbox Series, or for PC, is that it's not about one thing. Like Dead Space is a super strong experience, and so it's really about improving on a lot of different elements to create that original but still new experience, whether it's the new lighting and ray tracing, whether, like Phil mentioned, it's about audio, whether it's improvements to gameplay and having new zero-G, or as you're going to see maybe later, improvements and dismemberment and how you actually deal damage to the enemies, whether it's about having an unbroken and continuous experience. It's about doing a lot of improvements and how we enrich that experience. And so that's really what that remake is about.
Yeah, because, we have been looking at Reddit, we've been looking online, and there has been some people in the community noting that, the game already stood the test of time. This is still considered to be, quote unquote, a perfect game.
Exactly. And so, like we show, like I mentioned, what's really important for us, it's to capture that original ambience, that original experience, but like you've never experienced before. And that's really the age we're after, I believe.
Yeah, and I mentioned it earlier, like we want to make sure that we're honoring the legacy. That's one of our production pillars that we have for the game. But at the same time, we want to make it relevant for today. Like the games have evolved a lot since the original Dead Space came out. From obviously graphics, which is like the easiest way to see how it changed, but also as far as systems.
Not easiest necessarily to make.
Well, no, not easiest to make. No, that's for sure. But as far as systems, as far as just opportunities for gameplay and how to leverage it, that's something that we think that, given the evolution that Dead Space had within its own franchise with Dead Space 2 and Dead Space 3, but also how the franchise, how just the game industry evolved outside Dead Space, there's opportunities for us to make a better, a more complete experience, let's say.
Yeah, I'm just blown away at how good everything looked from just even that small glimpse into the engine. It feels like, you know, I know you're saying it's really, really early. It's really, really early, but it's just, this is really, my goodness, what is it going to look like when you wind up getting kind of further down the line? So that's really fantastic.
We might keep some surprise for later. Yeah.
Nice.
So can you please now show the stat comparison of the original 2008 game versus the current project? Yeah, that's a massive difference. You know, you remember your favorite game in a certain way and you think that it looks great, but then when you see improvements, it's wow, big difference, big difference.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see just how far we've come in terms of technology, right? Like it was only 13 years ago, but it seems like we've gone leaps and bounds where we're able to kind of take all the kind of small details you're seeing on the newer model of Isaac is really fantastic to see.
What are your current goals for the remake exactly? How are you going to honor the legacy of Dead Space? Because that is huge shoes to fill. Bar is set high.
Well, it is definitely, and like the team is actually extremely passionate. We're referencing a lot to the original game, having a lot of looks at it, and like I said, by making it relevant, we're looking at different games and what they did, and see how can we bring it back inside Dead Space. So, like one of the example is something that we're trying to do is to have an unbroken experience, to make the game fully seamless. And how can that create an experience where the players even more immersed within the game than was previously the case?
And it's really one of the big objectives that we have for that game is that from even before the start screen till the end of the game, the rolling credits, to never have any break of experience, to have that full and uninterrupted sequence shot. And so that, of course, has a lot of impact on what we're building. And just starting with how the Ishimura and the structure of the game is built, because we don't want any cut. So there should be no loading. How the full ship should be walkable from end to end, seamlessly, etc. There's a lot of elements that start to unfold when you start to think the game through that lens of really unbroken immersion.
And like really from the get-go, like we gave ourselves an objective. Like if possible, could we have players wanting to take the controller and play for 12 hours straight, never putting that down, not even going to the bathroom, just because they were so immersed within the game. And that's what we're after. That's like the type of immersion that we want to be able to achieve.
That's going to be a back-of-the-box quote. You can't go to the bathroom on the back of the box. I appreciate it. But I also heard you talk about, you know, how you want to double down on, or at least really focus in on what makes Dead Space fantastic around the horror aspect of the game, too. I'd love to hear more about that.
So, of course, horror, it's one of the main pillar of Dead Space. And it's about a lot of elements in Dead Space. So, of course, the story, it's about that. It's that iconic survival horror story. You're alone, trapped on that hulking spaceship. But the main element for us was to get the ambience right. And so that's why we started with elements like, for example, the Headbanger Corridor or the workshop that you can see in the teaser, is to make sure that we capture the ambience. It's about more than just the gore or the monsters or the story or the character. It's really about the Ishimura and how isolated and stressed you feel when you're inside that ship. And so that's really an important pillar for us. And so that's why we want you to be fully immersed and to never be able to pull out from that experience.
The pacing was so good. Like, it was a master class in pacing, the original Dead Space, to keep you on the edge of your seat all the time. And that's actually something that we challenged the team early on. Like, how can we make sure that we don't break that recipe, that we don't break the right amount of nothing happening that's going to actually increase the level of tension when you're playing. And so far, the team's been taking that challenge and doing an amazing job at it. And it's always something that's at the back of our head in every review that we're doing, and they're delivering amazing work on it.
It's one of the things, it's how can we keep players constantly on their toes, and we might have some surprise coming on that, and on how much you can be surprised even when you're doing something you're original. It's a lot of fun.